Romans 12:19. It says, "Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather place unto wrath. For it is written, Vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord." So don't think for 1 second that God did not see what they did to you. He saw every last bit of it. And if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, and I'm not talking about a stranger, I'm talking about someone close to you, someone who knew your heart, someone who knew your story, someone who knew exactly where you were vulnerable, and they used it against you anyway. I want you to listen closely, because the hardest part wasn't even what they did. It was witnessing that they had the audacity to betray you. It was sitting with it. It was watching them move on like nothing happened. It was watching them prosper while you were picking up pieces. And somewhere deep inside, you had a voice that starts to rise like, hey, look, somebody needs to do something about this, right? If God isn't going to, then maybe I need to step on in. But I'm telling you just to sit tight, because Romans 12:19 was written for exactly that moment. And before Paul ever gets to the part about vengeance belonging to God, he opens with two words that I don't want you to skip past. He says, dearly beloved. Not just beloved, but dearly beloved. Because Paul was writing to people who were being genuinely wronged, persecuted, and betrayed and mistreated by the people inside their own community. Can you relate? So he didn't open with a lecture. They couldn't relate to that. He opened with empathy, because he understood that you cannot tell someone in real pain to stand down unless you know where their position is first. So God sees your position. Every single detail of what has been done to you, he sees it, and he promises that he will do something about it. So now this is where Paul gets deep. He says, not to avenge yourselves. And I really want to be clear about that too, because this is not Paul telling you to just get over it, right? It's not Paul saying just pretend it didn't hurt and move on. What he is saying is, do not be the one to settle this. Step back. Not because you don't have a right to be angry, you do, but because the moment you try to handle it yourself, you actually step into God's lane. And when you step in God's way, God is going to move on out the way and let you handle it. See, your version of justice, as valid as it may be, is limited to only what you can see, right? So God's version of justice accounts for everything, including what they did when no one was watching, including the things they did before you, including the motives and the intentions behind every single move that they made. You only have a piece of the case, but God has the whole file. Amen. So Paul says, give place unto wrath. So he is telling you to step back, step out the way, and make room for God to move. When you are trying to handle things all yourself, you're blocking what God is trying to do. Your attempts at revenge are standing between your enemy and what God actually has planned for you. So you want to make sure that you move out and you step back, because what God has planned for them is far worse and far more precise than anything you could ever come up with on your own. So then God speaks in first person, and he says, vengeance is mine. I will repay. So that word repay in the original language, it doesn't mean God will do something similar to what they did to you, right? It means that he will repay back in full. And he will pay them back with interest. Okay? God didn't just see what they did to you. He saw the pattern. He saw the history. He saw every other person that moved through and that hurt you. He saw the intent behind every smile that was covering a hidden agenda, and his repayment is always going to be precise. His repayment is always going to be complete. And I want you to know that your give back is an interference, and it can actually cost you. If you try to get revenge now instead of letting God vindicate you from a position of righteousness, he has to deal with what you did too. You're muddying the case. You gave them something to point at. But when you keep your hands clean, when you step back, when you sit down and let God do it, trust me, you stay in position where heaven itself is your defense attorney. And no enemy can stand against that. So when God repays, it's not just about punishing what they did. It's about restoring everything that they took from you. Their actions created a debt. And God is a collector. Every opportunity they blocked, every season that they delayed, every relationship they poisoned, every tear that you cried in private over something that they did in public, God has been keeping score.